Tuesday was primary day in Maryland after a 4-month court-ordered delay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Yes, Maryland held its primary 2 days ago, and Maryland Republican voters took the first steps toward reclaiming their state. They rejected Republicans in name only and selected at least 2 genuine articles for the upcoming general election. Before I get into detail, I do want to shout out to the sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views, link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I've chosen today. You haven't seen it in a while, have you? Rhino hunting. That's what Maryland Republicans did. They went on a rhino hunt and bagged the limits. Reportage on the Maryland Republican and Democratic primaries comes from the following TV stations and other outlets. We have WJLA TV Channel 7 in Annapolis, an ABC affiliate. NBC Washington, which is Channel 4 in that market. Sorry, I don't have the call letters. We have WBAL TV Channel 11 Baltimore, an NBC affiliate. A site calling itself, and I kid you not, Vice.com, and NPR from 3 affiliate radio stations in the Baltimore, Frederick, and Ocean City markets. Now, the governor's race in Maryland is arguably the most important race. Republican Larry Hogan is the only Republican statewide office holder in Maryland today. At the same time, only one Democratic statewide office holder is seeking re-election. That would be Senator Chris Van Hollen. Now, Governor Hogan picked Kelly Schultz to succeed him. In contrast, President Donald J. Trump endorsed State Delegate Dan Cox. This morning, Mr. Cox clearly had the lead with 56% of the vote, with about 81% of the votes counted. The Democratic governor's race is too close to call. Why the difference? Mail-in ballots, that's why. Modern Democrats vote by mail in numbers way out of proportion to their registrations. I have a link in the description to an analysis I ran last year showing that mail-in ballots skew Democrat in general elections. Now, Governor Hogan vetoed an emergency bill that would have let election officials start counting mail-in ballots earlier than now. Counting of those ballots wasn't even allowed to start until 10 o'clock this morning. And ballots can still come in through Friday of next week. Now, let's start with Dan Cox. Who is he? Tellingly, Delegate Dan Cox made election integrity one of his major campaign themes. He wants to make Maryland a voter ID state and eliminate unverified mail-in ballots. Hey, don't just take my word for it. Visit his campaign website. I've left a link to it in the description. He also started a pro-life theme and a program to, and I quote, protect our God-given indivisible rights of life, liberty, and property, including Bill of Rights protected freedoms such as 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments, unquote, Dan Cox. Now, all these themes take on even greater importance given relevant Supreme Court rulings in the 2021 term. In blunt fact, the Supreme Court has reverted to the states many questions that relate directly to Mr. Cox's themes. Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization arguably tops the list. But Carson v. Macon should tell him to start now to campaign to repeal Maryland's Blaine Amendment. By any reasonable read of the Carson case, Maryland's Blaine Amendment is unconstitutional. Furthermore, Maryland is a may-issue gun state. For that reason, one of retiring Attorney General Frosch's permit denials is back in the 4th Judicial Circuit on a grant vacate remand order. People should ask candidate Cox whether he will work to repeal Maryland's discretionary permit system and install a shall-issue system. This, of course, brings us to Maryland's Attorney General's race. Brian Frosh, the incumbent, decided not to seek re-election. The Democrats seem to have nominated Representative Anthony Brown of Maryland's 4th District, with nearly 60% of the vote. Now, the Republicans nominated Michael Peroutka, with 58% of the vote. His campaign site, to which I've also left a link in the description, lists the campaign issues most important to him. One can readily see that he will definitely not enforce Maryland's May-issue gun law. He also embraces the pro-life ideology. Maryland has a 1992 law that allows endings of pregnancies to the time of viability. Michael Peroutka would not enforce that either. He said so. The most remarkable campaign theme is his plan for a wave of prosecutions of local officials who, he says, have exceeded their lawful authority. The context for these prosecutions will be quarantine and other measures relating to the virus that shall remain nameless. Of what his detractors say about him, the less said the better. Most of it is typical, for this year anyway, leftist boilerplate. But I want to call your attention to one thing. His enemies admit that he has not changed. The Republican base, they say, has changed and grown bold enough to embrace him. In fact, he comes from the Constitution Party. He ran for president on that ticket in 2004. But the Constitution Party split in 2006 after the Nevada chapter started supporting pregnancy endings under certain circumstances. National was having none of that. Nevada didn't budge, but National didn't kick Nevada out. Faced with that, Peroutka refused to carry the CP's presidential banner in 2008. He's been a Maryland Republican since 2014 and spent 4 years on the Anne Arundel City Council. Now, before we move to the Senate race, and there's not much to tell about that race, I want to shout out to another sponsor, BitNext. This is your replacement for Zoom, Slack, Google G Suite, Microsoft Office 365, Dropbox, WeTransfer, and Chili Piper, among others. Unlike any of them, BitNext protects your content and conversations so well that even the administrators can't see it. So this is your channel for secure comms, conferencing, cloud storage, and file sharing. Best of all, everything on it is back-end. You don't even need client software. If you have a browser, you can use BitNext. Follow the link at the very bottom and give them a try. 28 days free of charge. You can't beat that with a stick. Okay, where were we? Oh yes, the Maryland Senate race. Maryland does have a United States Senate seat up this fall. Chris Van Hollen holds that seat today, and he has easily won renomination. Now, Chris Chaffee seems to be a perennial Senate candidate, according to VoteSmart. He ran against Senator Holland 6 years ago. 4 years ago, he ran against Ben Cardin, the other and actually senior senator from Maryland. Mr. Chaffee does not seem to have his own campaign website. VoteSmart shows his positions, including smaller government with less regulation, respect for the Second Amendment, eliminating anything that smacks of socialized medicine, and ending government involvement in education. Very important. But he needs to get cracking on that kind of thing. Now, what's going on here? The Republican Party was never this bold. The Maryland Republican establishment must be fretting that Dan Cox and or Michael Peroutka are going to bring out single-issue Democratic voters, and there goes the general election. But the rank and file seem to be having none of that. So has the Maryland Republican Party changed? Sure looks like it. Given especially the results in the governor's and attorney general's race. The Senate race is more difficult to evaluate because we know so little about the apparent Republican nominee. Unlike Dan Cox, and Michael Peroutka, Chris Jaffe did not win a runaway majority. Not even close. No. Excuse me. Why any Republican has had the governorship at all is even more difficult to guess, though maybe Maryland has had a thoroughly corrupt establishment. Does anyone remember the most notorious Republican governor of Maryland? Spiro T. Agnew. Yes, that one. Now, we do know that no Republican has served as Attorney General of Maryland for 68 years. Indeed, only 4 Republicans have held the post since the last Whig Attorney General, Andrew K. Siester, left the post in 1875. Well, perhaps Maryland's Republicans have never seriously contested the office of Attorney General. Perhaps they regarded it as a largely apolitical office. But if that were ever the case, it is not the case today. We have seen attorneys general in many states simply refuse to fight certain kinds of crime. They do so on the explicitly socialistic theory that probably runs like this. A thief is an irregular wealth redistribution agent. Now, this election is different. For one thing, the Supreme Court has encouraged defenders of life and liberty to be bolder. When they struck down a 109-year-old May-issue gun law in New York State, that sent shockwaves through the ranks of would-be gun grabbers. Moreover, the court has struck down centuries of anti-liberty and anti-religious precedent. For another, the federal government has nastily politicized everything. When they did that, they destroyed the notion of believing an expert just because said expert is an expert. So clearly Republicans are looking for bold candidates who will not apologize for defending life, liberty, and property. They seem to have selected 2 such candidates in Dan Cox and Mike Peroutka. If so, perhaps they drew the model from their Pennsylvania counterparts, who nominated Senator Doug Mastriano for governor. Now, legacy media commentators who fret, or maybe gloat, that Republicans have nominated extreme candidates are missing the point. The days when people took their politics from Broderick Crawford movies like All the King's Men in 1949 or Born Yesterday in 1950 are over. Modern politics is personal. If Barack Obama didn't make it personal, Joe Biden certainly did. People have gotten wise, and they've wised up about civics too. The day when Freddie Fillmore could ask Lucille Ball what a senator's term of office was, and all she knew to answer back was, "The Senate runs every 2 years," are also over. Furthermore, a movie or a TV show you can turn off or get up and walk out of. Now, how do you walk out of a government that can decide that you don't need to defend yourself? Or one that makes you pay double tuition because you believe in God? Some also make much of Michael Peroutka's affiliation. That's good. Affiliation with a secessionist organization. I'm not going to tell you its name because I submit to you that secessionism is obsolete. The 2021 Supreme Court term shows we need not cede 1 square inch of territory to the enemies of freedom. Maryland Republicans know this, or if they didn't, newly elected Representative Myra Flores of Texas could tell them. For these reasons, I salute... As I was saying, I salute Dan Cox, Michael Peroutka, and Maryland Republican voters who went on a big rhino hunt, bagged the limit, and nominated some genuine article defenders of life, liberty, and property. Link in the description of the article to my chi-square proof that mail-in ballot skew Democrat and skew left, to the Dan Cox and Mike Peroutka campaigns, and to conservative news and views. I have another link to the awesome online store and to BitNext, as I also mentioned. And if you like what you've heard, you can like this video. On the end screen, I'm going to put in a subscribe link and also a link to my video about the rousing term the Supreme Court just had and Myra Flores' Texas win. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.